Well, Arlene Muller, thank you so much for talking with me about your work as a cinematographer with stress positions. Welcome to ForReel.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So I am super excited to talk with you about this because I was reading a little bit in your synopsis about how you approach this movie from a more naturalistic perspective when it came to cinematography. And when I watched the movie, I got so much of that feel from it. And so I personally think you nailed it, and we'll get into your approach to doing that. But before we do, let's start with talking about stress positions a little bit. For those who are maybe just discovering the film, can you give a little synopsis on what stress positions is about?
So Stress Positions is about a group of queer millennials that live in and around a brownstone in Brooklyn. It centers on Terry Goon, the main character, who is sort of keeping his 19-year-old nephew model hidden from his other friends, and chaos ensues when people start coming over and start discovering the model and bringing like a lot of chaos into Terry's life. And Terry is kind of like this little bit of a control freak, like trying to sort of make sure everything is like perfect, but of course nothing is perfect and everything falls apart. But it's all part of life. I think this is a very human movie about all the like, it's a satire obviously and it's a farce, but ultimately like it's not. I personally don't think the characters are like unlikable, but they definitely commit a lot of like errors and almost like sins in the movie. So I think, it's, I guess, up to the individual as to how they feel they can relate to that, but I definitely could relate to it. So to me, it's like a very relatable movie about human beings messing up, and trying to, keep relationships, or it's about like the difficulty of having relationships in like the modern world. And it's also set in COVID.
It,
So
it
a
is.
lot going
I
on.
was just about to ask about that. So the movie takes place during COVID, and the main character is very sensitive to that. Talk about this movie's relationship with COVID. Like when was it filmed? How long did it take to film? In proximity to when the pandemic was going on. Like, talk about the relationship between this movie and COVID.
Yeah, so I think that, for the director, for Theda, like it was very interesting to set a movie in the recent past, and especially this recent past that has been very traumatizing to people. And, it was really interesting for her to sort of like play around with all of the issues and obstacles that it created in people's lives, because this is like a comedy and it's a slapstick comedy in many ways. You have to have all these obstacles. And for her, I think like COVID was such a great obstacle. It was always something that's like getting in the way. And it's getting in the way of people connecting to each other because like this is a movie about failed connections, right? And a generation, like let's say the millennial generation, that has trouble with, being real, with being connected. Or at least the characters in this movie have issues with that. Like they're trying to connect, but they can't because their own selves and their own egos are getting in the way. So I think COVID for her was like the perfect metaphor for that, because it's something that really disconnects people, right? It was disconnecting us for so long. And this is a movie about like trying so hard to connect and just failing.
Absolutely. And I think that that really comes across in the film, and it's it's so fun and interesting to watch these connections, attempt to maintain some semblance of like, normality in such a chaotic time, I'm curious how you got involved with the project. Tell me about you coming on board and being the cinematographer for this project.
So I had done some work with John Early in the comedy like scene here in Los Angeles. We'd done some short films together. We had worked with director Andy DeYoung on Comedy Special. And so I was very familiar with John's work. He was very familiar with my work. And in 2021, he introduced me to Theta. And this was also like we were still kind of navigating COVID. And we did a short together with John, Theta, me, Ali Compton, who was one of our producers on Stress Position, produced it. And we shot it in John's house in LA, and it was Theda's first like film work, and it was really exciting to work with her on that. And when that film got into Sundance, and then from there, like that's where Neon saw the film, approached Theda about doing a feature, and then I think she interviewed some people, and because we'd worked together, maybe that was a good thing as far
Yeah.
as shooting the feature. So yeah.
Absolutely. I'll talk more, I'll ask more about the film here in a minute, but getting into more of your part in the film as a cinematographer, I'd like to talk more about that. I'm curious to know more about the equipment that you use to film the movie. And I mean, I'm a very novice kind of camera operator, right? And so I would love to hear more about what you do as a professional cinematographer, and how you applied your skills, and what equipment you used on this movie.
Totally. So obviously every film is really different, and a lot of where you approach the equipment is from what the director wants.
Mhm.
So Theda really wanted, like, she didn't want something pretentious, or precious. Maybe precious is a better word than
Mhm.
pretentious,
Mhm.
because that's like so subjective. But she didn't want it to be like a cinematographer's movie. The focus is supposed to be on the actors, the acting, the honesty, and the truth of what they're portraying, and the comedy, of course.
Mhm.
So starting from that, like, we needed a camera package that was very like flexible, light. It wasn't going to be this like heavy thing that would weigh us down and cause us, we weren't going to do these like setups that would take a long time to set up. It needed to be fast. It needed to be mobile. It needed to be flexible, also to her needs as a director. um, because it's not totally improvised, but there were definitely moments during the day where we needed to like move fast and rethink, the blocking of a scene or something like that. So we settled on, after doing some tests, we settled on the Alexa 35. Um, and we used vintage Canon zoom lenses. They're 16 millimeter lenses. And the reason we use 16 millimeter lenses, well, one, because Theta had actually had some, because she's a gearhead too. Like, she understands technical language really well, and she has her own camera, and we both have like these vintage Canon zoom lenses. And she loves the look of that. And so we really wanted to use those. She knew from the outset, like, she was like, I want to shoot this movie on, 16 millimeter zoom lenses. They're light, they're flexible. And then if you put them on a camera like the Alexa 35, you're getting all the incredible like range and latitude of that sensor. It lets you shoot. We were able to crop the sensor, because when you shoot on 16 millimeter lenses, you are actually using less of the sensor, because the lens covers less of the sensor, because it's for 16, not 35. So it covers a smaller area of the sensor. So we were shooting at 2K instead of, that sensor shoots a little over 4K, normally on a 35 millimeter lens. So it was like perfect, because we were above 1080, like we were at 2K, which was a really good resolution for everything that we needed, for color, for projection, for everything. Our colorist said she loved, being able to work with the Alexa 35, because it gives you so much flexibility in post. And that's what we used. And a lot of the time we were handheld, we were, kind of shouldering it. We were in a car, like, just, this was a very low budget movie. So, our rigs were, in the moment, they were fast, sometimes they were dirty, but they were always stable and always good. So, I think that the handheld stuff was really exciting for me, because I love doing handheld. I'm a huge fan of Sean Price Williams's work. And he's one of my like idols as far as, handheld camera work and flexibility. And so, I think we're really going for that. Theta also loved the reference of like John Cassavetes films, also for their emphasis on the actor and the fluid, camera. So those are kind of our touchstones, and that's where the camera package evolved from, was from those like ideas.
That's so cool. And it's really great to hear about the style, and just to see how much of what I observed in the film was the intention for you guys. The handheld components of the film, like it's such a a great natural, I guess, component to how the audience is experiencing this movie. I always feel like handheld work in a film really puts us in in the setting and in the scene. And so I really appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about that style, the naturalism, the handheld ness of it. I know you're talking about how this isn't a super prestigious kind of film, but tell me more about how comfortable you were with that natural setting, with the handheld cameras, and maybe if there's anything that you had to learn or uh, educate yourself on to make this movie happen.
That's a really good question. I will say that technically this is something that is kind of in my wheelhouse. Like I've worked a lot in the low budget world. I had an absolutely insane gaffer. Like he was also so flexible and able to move, really fast. And we were doing kind of augmented naturalism, right? So we were
Mhm.
using lights to create like sunlight through the windows. We were using lights to, sometimes give people an edge whenever we could separate the actors from the background, like, all of that stuff that is important to get like a juicy image, right? So you want the image to be alive, right? Like you don't want it to be flat. You don't want just like, let's say like, a beige colored person against a beige colored wall, like like that's not going to that's not going to like engage, right? So
Right.
a juicier image will engage somebody. So we did have Theda's friend Gordon, like this incredible production designer and production design team. They painted the walls in the house, so we also had that separation, from actor and background. So the colors helped, right? She had an amazing reference from a book. I actually think I might have it here.
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
wait. Oh no. No, I put it into storage, but
Darn.
there was like a photo book called like Abandoned Places or something like that. There was like a real reference for her for the colors in the house. It was just she had all of these brilliant ideas, honestly, that came from her about like color and having the rooms in the house be different colors. And so
Mhm.
all of that stuff helped us, right? Like with the shooting style, and my gaffer was helping, like everybody was helping. It was a very holistic, process. What did I learned? So I wanted to say that technically, because this sort of like style is something that I have done before, I think that one of the biggest things I learned was not so much a technical thing, but like a personal relationship thing, where I learned that like Theda as a director, she really needed me to like say yes more. And I sometimes, because of the limitations of the job, right, you get used to being like, oh, that might not be possible. Oh, I don't know if we could do that, and kind of like raising, like the director will say like, okay, I want to do this. And then your brain is immediately like, and this is just in life, right? Like
Right.
sometimes somebody will propose something to you. And I think this happens to everyone where we're like, damn, no, that's going to be hard, And I think what I really learned on this film is that it's really important, especially with first time directors and super creative, like kind of creative geniuses, to say yes more and just lead with yes. And I wish that was something I had known before the project, but everything is a learning process.
Mhm.
And like I do feel that like towards the end there was just more collaboration and more like willingness on my part to not stop the process by like, but it's like so hard on a low budget shoot because like that there's certain things that will take time. And so it's this whole like diplomatic process of like explaining and navigating like what you can do, what you can't do. Big ideas are amazing. Like I was so blessed to be a part of a production where the director came in with like huge world building ideas. And oh, wait, are you still there? Oh, yeah.
I'm still here, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, so that was like a big one for me, was just lead with yes. So technically I think also like learning to really navigate again like a complicated shoot where like we have a lot of things to do every day, and
Mhm.
maybe again this isn't such an equipment thing as more of like a brain, like if we need to go back to a certain scene or a certain shot because we missed something, like, okay, how long is it going to take us to relight that? And so those were
Mhm.
all the tricky things that I think I got more practice on as well. So that could be considered like a technical.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that it's really cool that you learned something like that because it took this, you guys shot this movie in, was it 24 days?
Yeah, I think 24, and then Theta did B-roll on her own. So maybe
Yeah.
total would be like 25, 26.
I mean, how stressful was it? Doing a movie of this scale in 24 days.
It was stressful. I think we were all aware, I think the crew and the producers and Data, like everybody and the actors, like everybody was aware that we were working with a very small budget. And, there was a lot of, I think, optimism that's necessary to like go into a project like that. And again, that's like what I was saying before, that like if you put up too many blockades and be like, oh, can't do this, can't do that because budget, like you just have to find ways to like work within the budget to make it
Mhm,
happen. And so that is, you have to be very like solution oriented. And I think that our team, like for the most part, everybody was really down with that. And that's how you make it happen. Like you just have to work on saying yes, but also work within the limitations and be aware of what you have. Like we didn't really go over too much. Like we made our days, and scheduling was very hard because there's a lot of moving pieces, as you could see, like,
mhm.
and we're all over the house like all the time, and the house had a lot of rooms. There was a downstairs, there was kind of like the main floor section where we had the living room and the kitchen. Then there was an upstairs, there was Coco's room, there was the patio, there was in front of the house. Like Theta also is so smart. Like writing, once she got into the space, she was like, okay, let's really use all of these different places to create a whole, world around this house. And it also very much reflects New York because we shot in a brownstone in Brooklyn. And I grew up in Brooklyn. So like brownstone, it's like, I know that it's like, I think for people who live in New York or who grew up in New York or who have a connection with New York, like that brownstone, it really like makes you feel something, So like I think she was so smart to like, connect everything once she saw the location, and once she got into the location, when she had the location, she was like in there every day, like
Mhm.
planning and sort of figuring out like where things could be.
That's so cool. And so interesting to hear you talk about it. And I mean, it just sounds like a really, really great project to have worked on. And I'm really happy for you and the success of this film so far, being at Sundance. Um, on the cinematography note, I'll have to wrap this up here in a few minutes, but I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring cinematographers. What would you say to someone who is interested in your line of work?
Well, I would say that it's really important to, have both a technical like knowledge, but it's also important to have relational knowledge, right? Like I was saying, it's really important to get out there and shoot whatever you can in the beginning, then start refining to things that you like really feel connected to versus just any old thing, But I think in the beginning, like just try to shoot whatever you can and then start refining, right? So you're
Mhm,
trying to like start connecting with the work more, as you're able to like be more choosy. um do as much technical like workshops, school, whatever you can do. If you can't afford school, you can like start PAing on set in the camera department. So camera PA, video assist, second AC, like those are all also incredible ways to learn and grow. And you will always find mentors to help you within that system as well. Watch a lot of movies, know what you like, like try to figure out your style and what you love. Um, be a little bit of a chameleon, try to be open to different projects and different styles. Put the director and the actors first. That's the most important thing. You're there to facilitate. You're not there to, like direct.
mhm.
Be a team player and obviously like love it, like approach it with love, like have fun and you know live your life.
No, that's awesome. Really, really great advice. This has been such a pleasure talking with you, Arlene. I really appreciate this. And I have one more question to kind of wrap it up. Just what does it mean to you for this film to premiere here at Sundance?
Whew. It was crazy. I was so exciting. Like, this is my first feature in a major festival, and to have it be Sundance, like, oh, it meant the world. It was really, really special. Very, very beautiful, like happy, experience for me.
That's very cool. Arlene, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for talking with me, and again, congratulations on the film and getting into Sundance. And I'm wishing you and the film and everyone involved the best going forward. Okay.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.